Why do I have to do this and other kids don't? They were scared because they hadn't a clue what cystic fibrosis was. I couldn't breathe at all. At all.
No, not even a little bit.
Really, I'm like, fuck, I can't tell her. I can't really breathe. When I felt this feeling,
You knew.
I knew. So working full time, paying for a mortgage, keeping up with friends in life, I got it, like, I just burnt out. He was talking to my mom because I couldn't really talk on the phone or anything. But I did tell my dog, like, I promise you I'll be home. So I promised Chase that I would be back, my dog. If I have to do something, I'm going to do it. And I also like to prove people wrong.
Welcome to the Kamu Talks, where we talk about healing
and wellness
and everything in between.
Well, you're technically my aunt.
Yeah.
She married my uncle.
So I'd be like aunt-in-law.
Yeah, even though I'm older than my aunt by 1 year.
Yeah. We'll just call each other by first name if that's cool with you. Chels, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Chelsey. I'm going to be 36 this June. I also was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at the age of 4. And I'm also a double lung transplant survivor going on 6 years now. I'm the eldest of 3 siblings, so I have 2 younger brothers. I married my high school sweetheart, and I'm a mom dog, so I have a little fur baby Chase at home.
Shout out to Chase.
Yeah, shout out to Chase. Love you, bud.
All right, thanks for sharing that. The reason why I invited you here, and I wasn't sure if it was something you were okay to share with, but I know that you had been sharing it with, like your journey, your health. Would you be able to share us and tell us about your journey, about your health, and can you introduce CF?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was first diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at the age of 4. It was something that my parents and family knew nothing about. As many people were still learning about cystic fibrosis back in 1988, it was, it was still new. They were still learning all about it. So when I was a baby, I kept getting reoccurring chest infections, which they thought was ammonia. So I would have a couple of emissions when I was like 1 and 2, and I think again when I was 3. And then the doctors were saying, you know what, this isn't normal for a young baby to be getting pneumonia this many times. So they said, let's do a sweat test. So a sweat test is how they decide, they find out if your child has cystic fibrosis. So of course, I just failed my sweat test, borderline. So they said, yes, your daughter does have CF. I do have more of the milder case of CF because there's like about 2,000 different mutations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's the CF genes, they're broken, and which is why it doesn't clean the lungs properly. So that's why you get the chest infections. There's also more severe cases of CF where it affects other organs like the pancreas and the digestive tract. So because I have more of the mild 2 mutations, it only affected my lungs and sinuses.
So it can get pretty severe.
Yeah, so like a lot of people, their pancreas isn't working properly. They have to be on pills for that for life.
Wow.
So I'm lucky I don't have that. Also, there's a lot of CF related diabetes, which is another thing I don't have, which I'm lucky. But
that makes sense because then the pancreas is...
yeah, because they're kind of linked.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then my parents got the news when I was 4. And when I was younger, I just had to do inhaled treatments, physiotherapy.
And this is what age again?
This is all started at 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they thought it was just a recurring pneumonia at that point, yeah.
But after they did the sweat test, it determined that, yes, I do have CF.
Got it.
So then they had to, explain to my parents what CF is because they had no idea. So, you know, at 4 years old, I was just wondering, like, you know, why do I have to do this and other kids don't?
That
you
is
know,
crazy.
right?
You're probably like,
I
am
was
I?
like, I don't want to do this. I
Yeah.
don't want to wake up and do these inhaled treatments. I just want to go out and play with my brothers and cousins.
Of
you know what I
course.
mean,
Like you
right?
want to be a kid. You
Yeah.
want to run around, do whatever the other
Right?
kid is doing. Yeah.
So of course, like that's how where my stubbornness started. So obviously, I would give my parents a hard time about doing the treatments, but I knew I had to. So I would get it done, and then
Yeah.
because I had serious FOMO, I still
Yeah.
still do, right?
You love life.
I like
Here's
to
the
keep busy. Yeah, I like
over
to,
the years that I've
Yeah.
come to know you, you just live to the fullest. And you know,
Yeah.
like it must be hard growing up as a child and knowing that like why am I sick? Like you probably didn't comprehend
I didn't
at that
comprehend
time.
it,
Like you know you were sick.
Yeah.
But you didn't quite
Yeah.
you were a child, right?
So I didn't quite understand it. I was just like, this is
Yeah.
unfair. But
Of course.
I've always been the type of person that if I have to do something, I'm going to do it. And I also like to prove people wrong.
Right.
So sometimes, you know, the doctors would say, oh, no, Chelsey, you can't do this or you got to do this. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. Just hold on a minute, okay? So
And the story's gonna get
Yeah.
wild. You will like if you refer back to this moment, you will understand why Chelsey is Chelsey and she is the way she is.
Yeah.
So data wise, right? Like I know cystic fibrosis as a condition,
yeah.
but statistics wise, how do you get it? What's the statistics on it?
So both of my parents were each a carrier. So everyone has the CF gene in them.
Right.
But
Both of them? Oh, everybody.
everybody has the CF gene,
Yeah.
which helps, you know, clear the lungs and all that. So the genes that both my parents carry, they're broken. They don't work properly, and each of them passed one of those genes on to me.
you.
So when two parents pass on a broken CF gene, then their child gets CF. But it's a 50% chance. Right?
It's still a big chance, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but
But you have to be a
But
carrier.
both parents have to be that CF gene carrier.
Wow.
So, you know,
It's
my
chance.
dad, you know, he's from Scotland, across the world. You know, came to Hamilton, met my mom. What are the chances that both of them were CF carriers? So,
Wow.
because of that, you know, my mom's brothers and sisters and my dad's sisters and, you know, their kids, it's recommended that they get CF genetic testing when them and their partner is planning to have a child. Because since my mom is a carrier, her brothers and sisters could be carriers. So
I see.
it's recommended that if CF is in the family, it's recommended for, you know, future partners wanting to conceive kids to get tested. So to get tested for that, it's just a simple genetic blood test. And you let your doctor know, like, you know, CF is in my family, my cousin, or, you know, my second cousin has it.
Yeah.
And then they'll do the test for you. So,
Then that will give you the informed decision
yes.
how you will go about.
Yeah. So in my case, I'm obviously a carrier because I have CF. So my partner, my husband, we did the genetic testing for him. He's not a carrier.
Okay.
So if we decided to have a child, the child would not have
Then
CF.
you're good. Yeah.
But I can pass on a gene to my kid.
And then whoever your kid
And then
marries.
whoever my kid marries, if their partner has
Ah,
has the genetic CF gene,
Yeah.
then, you know, because you can be a carrier and not have it, right?
That's true. You just have that gene.
Yeah.
But the moment you marry
You
somebody,
marry someone else with that gene, then you'll have 50% chance
Yeah.
you'll have a kid with CF.
that's why it's worth getting the testing.
Yeah,
right?
so I recommend, you know, with any health condition, if you know
Yeah.
there's, you know, health conditions in your family, then, you know,
Yeah.
I would do the smart thing. Why not get the genetic testing? The more you know, the better,
Oh yeah.
right?
Being
So-
informed. Like there's nothing
Yes.
wrong with planning ahead.
No.
And knowing your, you know.
Yeah, but why
Your
not know
genes.
everything ahead of
Yeah.
time, be prepared, and also you can prevent certain things, you know, from happening,
Exactly.
right?
So when so they found out about your CF and all that stuff from the sweat test.
Yeah.
How was your family's reaction? Like, how did they take that
So
news? Like, that's a
my
big
par-
news.
yeah, well, they were devastated.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they were scared because they hadn't a clue what cystic fibrosis was. But we did have a really good team at McMaster. Like, they're still my team. So I still go to
At
them.
Mac.
Yeah, at
Not
Mac.
not Toronto anymore. Or is it the same?
So I still have CF, even though I had a lung transplant.
Right.
So when you get a lung transplant, it kind of helps you live a better life, prolongs your life, but it doesn't cure you. It's not a cure. Any transplant, it's not.
Symptoms
So
are better.
Symptoms are better. So
Yeah.
now that I have, donor lungs, my lungs don't have scarring on them. I don't get chest infections all the time. I can breathe better. Like, guys, I had no idea I couldn't breathe all this time.
And you're like,
Right? And I was
yeah.
still keeping up with everyone.
Yeah.
I thought everyone breathed
Yeah.
like this. So, like, now that I have, donor lungs, it's like, it's a complete difference. Like,
Yeah.
I went to Italy last summer,
Mm-hmm.
20,000 steps
I
and
was
more,
so
not out of breath.
Proud of you when you did
Right?
that. I'm
Like,
"Go
so
yeah.
back in the day, I'd be like taking breaks, drinking water, probably coughing fits.
Yeah, yeah.
And like when you cough, you burn so many calories. So
But I get so
another
tired.
thing is like CFers have a hard time gaining weight because we burn so much calories. So, I'd be getting trouble at the hospital because, Chelsey, you're not up in weight yet. So they'd be pushing. They'd be like, go to McDonald's, get a Big Mac, like have an extra chocolate bar at lunch. And like, so I'd have
Like this is the hospital
this is the hospital
pushing you
telling me to eat like
to
this.
eat unhealthy stuff.
So like in grade school and high school, people would be like, oh my God, like this girl has killer lunches. I did have the best lunches around because my mom's Italian.
Yeah.
So I'd have, the pristine lunch plus all these snacks and extras on top of it. And like,
Yeah.
in high school, people would be like, where does she put it?
But you would
Right?
you
But
would
deep-
finish everything?
I would finish everything,
Yeah.
but deep down, I'm like, they'd be like, oh, you're lucky you're so skinny. But in reality, I didn't want to hear that because I was already getting in shit. And I was trying so hard to gain weight.
Right.
So like they didn't know, and I wasn't like open with my CF in grade school and high school. Only my closest
Right.
friends knew. So it was not. I just said, oh yeah, I would just laugh it off, like yeah, whatever. But in my head, I'm like, oh shit.
Or
They're
you-
saying I'm really skinny. Fuck, I gotta have another chocolate bar, right?
You know what a smart answer would have been? It's Italian. Of course I'm gonna eat
Yeah,
everything.
of course.
Italian food is the best.
Yeah.
So fast forward to, just talking about your timeline, being diagnosed,
Yes.
treatment, transplant, and recovery. How did that take me back from what year to what year, your progression?
Okay, so
So you got diagnosed when you were
diagnosed at 4, and at 4, once they got me on the inhaled treatments, I had to do it in the morning when I woke up, and then at night before bed. So it was like Ventolin inhaler, Palmazine, Toby. So I would do that. A lot of the times, inhaled medications made me lose my voice. So there was a lot of times throughout grade school and high school, I'd go to school and my voice was gone.
Wow.
Or it was very coarse, right?
So, and nobody questioned what?
No,
you
just
good? No?
once in a while, the teacher would be like, Chelsey, can you answer this question? And I'd be like, I can't, I lost my voice, right?
And at this point, nobody.
No one knew.
nobody-
Some of
yeah.
the teachers knew, just to be safe in case anything ever happened to me at school. So, and some of my friends knew, but none of them knew why I always lost my voice because I never talked about the treatments I had to do.
And that inhalers did that.
Yeah,
for
so,
you,
so with the inhalers, they're harsh on your throat and vocal
Yeah.
cords. So I had to do that morning and night. And that was up until about grade 6, so I was about 12 years old. Then they started to introduce antibiotics on top of the inhaled medications.
Every.
So I had to start taking 2 different antibiotics. So one was called ciprofloxacin, and that was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'd be on a month of that. And then off a month, and on the off month, I had to take azithromycin.
Wow, your memory is wild.
Yeah.
And you're 6.
Yeah, that's the thing. From 4 years old, I had to memorize all these medications.
Yeah.
I felt like being the oldest sister too. I was, very responsible and I grew up fast.
Yeah. You became almost hyper independent because
Yeah.
of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be because you have to know you go to these doctor appointments and you have to know what they're talking about and
Ask
They
questions and not be just like,
yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, I'll take. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you ask a lot of
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
So they had me on the 2 different antibiotics starting in grade 6 when I was 12. And they have to have you on the 2 to alternate because you can get resistant to the medications. Once you get resistant, then it's not going to help your CF.
Yeah.
And you'll get more chest infections. So the inhaled meds help clear the airways because what CF does is it, when your everyday living, you breathe in pollution, this and that. You get a cold, you get more congested.
Yeah.
So normal people's lungs,
Like a
they can-
COPD exacerbation.
yes. So
Almost similar. Yeah.
So normal people's lungs, they have the excess protein, which is in the CF gene. Mine's broken, but because you guys have the extra protein, it cleans the lungs. Mine, it's almost like you're a Dyson vacuum, so it cleans up everything. I'm like the knockoff. So like,
Sorry, the China version.
so
Sorry, didn't mean it.
so my CF lungs, when I get infections or colds like that, the mucus kind of stays on the lungs because it's not getting cleared properly. That's why I have to take the inhaled medication, then the antibiotics to prevent any infections because, you get this sticky phlegm on your lungs, which makes you cough more.
And is it hard to? It just stays in there,
Yeah,
or are you
so
able to cough it out?
you can cough it out, but when it's stuck there, like
The exertion will make you tired.
you feel that it's stuck there.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure, like, when people have colds, they know when they're congested in the chest. When you cough it up, you feel a lot better and more clear. But there was times where, I would, like, have a coughing fit at school and have to go to the washroom,
That's crazy.
right?
That's probably like a normal, like,
And that's
all
why,
the time occurrence for you, yeah?
think about, like, how many calories you're burning. Like,
Yeah.
when I was younger, like, I had, like, a 4-pack, 6-pack from coughing so much.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a workout.
And you're
every single
exhausted
day.
probably at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
like-
yeah?
So grade 6 started the antibiotics. Throughout grade school and high school, I never had any hospital admissions.
That was my next question, yeah.
So, I maintained a pretty normal lifestyle.
Even despite the circumstance.
Yeah, despite,
Yeah.
having CF, being on these inhaled meds and
Yeah.
taking and the antibiotics were the first year of taking them were really harsh on my stomach.
Oh, yeah. The side
Like-
effects are...
Like, I'd be
Yeah.
like, I have to go to the washroom. I'd be in the bathroom at school throwing up because the meds were so, like, harsh on my
the stomach, yeah.
And it just made you feel so sick, right? So that sucked. Like, it wasn't fun, but it was something that
Yeah.
I had to do. I just did it. I didn't think about it, and I just,
You just
I
knew you
lived
had...
life to the fullest.
You
'cause I'm
just
like,
knew... Was it almost like, I don't have any option, but I have to
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
my life, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't had hospital admission. Like, when was your first hospital admission?
So it was actually grade 9. I went in only because the doctor said, I think you just need an IV tune-up. I wasn't really sick or anything, but she said, the antibiotics, they're harsh on your stomach. So she said, let's take a break 1 week in the hospital.
As
off-
IV.
Yeah, off the oral antibiotics and let's do IV. So I did that
Okay.
for 1 week, grade 9. It traumatized me because I'm in the hospital away from my friends. I couldn't go to school.
Of
I was
course.
missing out in high school,
And that was one week of
just
that?
for 1 week. But I
Yeah.
was like, my closest friends came, my best friend came, family, so
Yeah.
that helped.
Yeah. And then after that, they just discharged
And then after
you.
that, I didn't have any admissions until after high school. I finished college, no admissions then. It wasn't until I started working full time. Before then, I only worked part time in school, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was working full time, and then me and my now husband, we weren't married yet at the time, but we bought a house. So then I was adding on, we were both adding on more responsibility to our plate. So working full time, paying for a mortgage, keeping up with friends in life, I got it, like, I just burnt out,
Oh, for sure.
right? So, and it's
Like adulting happened on top of
Yeah.
what you're already going through.
and
right?
living on my own, like,
Yeah.
I had to start making my own meals, doing stuff around the house. So, like, it
Burnt you
wore
up.
me out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And did it hospitalize you at some point?
So, yeah, I guess I had my first collapsed lung, and at the time, I felt chest pain, but I didn't know what it was. I just thought, oh, like, this CF is a bitch, you know? Right? So I just thought, oh man, I think I might have a chest infection or something. But me, like, being afraid of the hospital and having to stay there, I was like, you know what, I'm okay. I'll just, you know, I'll take more of my inhaled meds. I'll do 2 months of Cipro instead of being off and going on a Zithro. So I was just trying to do everything in my power to feel better.
Yeah.
To avoid going to the hospital.
Of course.
Because that was the last place I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Right? But then, like, you know, I was feeling, okay, now I'm going up and down the stairs, or after a shower, I'm feeling like winded, short of breath. And then one day I just coughed up blood. So I'm like, okay, shit.
Yeah.
I've never done that before.
Yeah.
So then I called my mom and my husband, and I said, okay, I surrender. Like, let's go to the hospital
Yeah.
now,
At
right?
that point, you're like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I went, they did an x-ray, and they said, oh my God, like, how did you not come in sooner? Your one lung is completely collapsed. How are you breathing? And I said, well, with CF lungs, this is kind of normal to breathe like this. So it wasn't much of a difference.
You grew up just kind of managing it on your
Yeah.
own. So at that time, you're like, oh, it's just
It's
like a flare or something.
Yeah, it's just maybe a chest infection.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh my God, like, okay. So they had to put 2 chest tubes in
Yeah.
just to inflate this lung back up.
Yeah.
So I was in there for about 2 or 3 weeks. So that was brutal because when you're in there, you lose weight, and I couldn't afford to lose any more weight. So I lost more weight. They finally got the lung up, but they wanted to make sure it was going to stay up. Because they said, we know you don't want to come back here. And I said, yes, I don't. So do what you got to do. So they did, they took the chest tube out because, you know, every day they would do an x-ray. Once the chest tube inflated the lung back up, then they said, we're going to do this procedure called talc. So it's basically a coating that glues your lung to the side of the wall. So
it essentially binds it. Yeah.
So they didn't tell me that this glue procedure hurts so much.
Yeah. I think it's called pleurodesis.
Yes.
Pleurodesis.
But
they
call
use
it
talc.
Talc.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that hurts.
It hurts a lot. So, you know, they didn't give me anything. They just said, oh, you know, don't worry, I'll be fine. And they insert the talc through the chest tube, which is in between one of your ribs. And it's a powdery liquid that goes in. But when this glue touches your lung, it like freezes it. It's like a freezing feeling. So you can't breathe. This pain goes on for a whole hour. So you're like kind of doing like relaxed breathing the whole time.
Because you're worried about the pain.
You're worried about the pain.
Yeah.
But you also want to make sure that glue's, because they make you like toss and turn to make sure the glue coats that side of the lung and that it sticks to the wall. And I had really amazing nurses there. Like, they were holding my hand and like getting me cold towels and stuff like that.
And that makes a difference too, right?
So that really helped. And
wow.
like, I know I can endure anything. Like,
but just having that extra, support, right?
So it really helps having that support, you know, to get through any pain or like hurdle, struggle. So after I had the talc procedure, then the lung was good. It never came down again.
For a little bit, or?
Yeah, it never came down. The right one never did.
Never?
No. Wow. Yeah, so that happened when I was about 23, 24 was my first lung collapse. And they did the talc, it never came down. And then I had another sprint of a few years, from 23 to 27, no hospital stays.
Wow.
So yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, that's a good stretch. Yeah.
And, you know, I was still working full time, you know, still had the house with my husband, and I was keeping up with my friends and my family life and everything, living a pretty normal life, CF-wise. And then it wasn't until I was 27 and I caught some kind of chest infection. It was like influenza or something I caught. So that really, you know, put me a lot of steps back. Because when I got that influenza, I collapsed the left lung.
Just the left this
The
time.
left this time.
The first one was the right.
The first one was the right, and the second time was the left. And since I had a lung collapse already before, a couple years prior, when I felt this feeling,
You knew.
I knew. So at work, I was feeling out of breath and tired.
Yeah.
And actually, when my mom saw me like 2 days before, she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Your lips are blue," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm just cold."
Yeah.
But really, I'm like, "Fuck, I can't tell her. I can't really breathe."
Were you scared that what she'll be worried? Like,
Yeah.
okay, you didn't want her to worry.
No.
Got it. And part of you didn't want to go back to the hospital? Is
Yes.
that why? I'm like,
oh.
I'm like a psychic.
Yeah. So a part of me, I didn't want to worry my family.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go back in the hospital because I'm like, okay, like this time seems bad. Because for my lips to go blue.
Then you know you're not getting
Yeah.
perfusion.
So then I went home that night. And then the next day, I had a shower. I was like, okay, maybe I'll be okay. But then I coughed up blood.
Again.
And I'm like, I knew it. So
you knew
and it was a lot
exactly.
of blood. Like, it's not like a little bit of blood. It's a lot of blood. And it wasn't like I was coughing. It was just like, I felt something in my chest and a lot of blood came out. So I'm like, oh shit, okay, Corey, we got to go to the hospital. I know this time it's a collapsed lung because I know this feeling in my chest.
Yeah.
I can't breathe that good. And the spitting up of blood, I'm like, we have to go. So we picked up my mom. She came with us. We went to St. Joe's. They took the x-ray. They're like, yeah, collapsed lung. But they're like, you also have influenza too. So they got me on Tamiflu antibiotic.
That's for influenza, I think.
Yeah, because I had influenza.
Yeah.
And then again with the chest tube. So I had one chest tube up here and one down here. And they said, if we get these two in right away, then the lung should come up quickly. So the lung came up quickly. Then they did the talc again, so I knew. I was like, okay, guys.
Oh, my gosh.
Don't tell me it doesn't hurt because I know it does. So I said, if we can get pain management here on
that would
ready
be good, yeah.
before you do the glue, that'd be great. So they came with the pain management. It wasn't as painful, but still, no pain med could take away this pain.
Yeah, I imagine.
Right? So again, it lasted another hour. Then they do an x-ray. Okay, it stayed. Then they wanted to monitor me 1 more week in the hospital just to make sure that the glue held
Adhesion,
up the lung. And of course, this time it didn't go too well. So they could not get the top of the lung here to close up. So I had a hole at the top of my lung, and you could feel it every time I breathed in and out. You can feel it was like a flickering. So then they tried this other option. It was called like a blood clot as a Band-Aid.
Is it TPA?
They gave a name for it, but they take your own blood. So
Yes,
they took
yes,
a bunch
yes,
of my
yes.
own blood, and then they
Blood patch, I think.
they put a chest tube here where the closing wasn't closing of the lung, and then they put my own blood at the top of the lung they were trying to make like a blood clot patch on the top of my lung to seal the top up. So I said, do whatever you have to do because I just want to get the heck out of here and go back to my life.
Yeah, move
right?
on.
And my dog and my husband, like I got things to do, places to go.
Yeah.
So they did that, and then they're like, you know what? It's not taking, it's not working. But they said, we know how bad you want to go home.
Yeah.
So they said, let's see if maybe you live your normal life just fine with it. And maybe over time it will close because the body wants to heal itself. So over time, it can heal. So they said, we're also going to put you on supplemental oxygen only as needed. So I did go home with it, but most of the time I didn't really need it. It was if, say I was
like overexerting
and stuff. And, if I felt out of breath, put it on.
Wow.
So at that point, I was 27, just about turning 28. I couldn't go back to work because being on oxygen, you're too much of a liability. And then it's like
The hassle.
The hassle of it.
Yeah.
You know how much those tanks weigh? And when you can't breathe,
Probably heavier than you at
they
that
were,
time.
yeah, at that time.
Yeah.
You know, I was less than 100 pounds. This tank, it's on wheels, but still, you know,
Yeah.
it weighs a lot.
And probably like with your, I don't want to say confidence, but like, were you self-conscious to like go back to work with that as well?
When
right?
I left the hospital and they said, you need to take this oxygen just in case when you need it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, my life's over. Like, no, I don't want to, like, I don't want to be seen with this. I don't want to use it, but I had no other choice. Do I want to breathe?
Yeah.
Do I need this when I'm out of breath?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, right?
Yeah.
So, but I had to tell my work, like, I can't return.
Right.
So I had to, you know, end my notice there.
You probably needed that time though, too.
And I needed that
Yeah.
time because you know what? When I was
Yeah.
working full time, I was exhausted.
Yeah. Your body's like, just chill.
Yeah,
probably.
my body's like, you need this, like, right? So yeah, when I went home on the oxygen, in the beginning, I only needed it here and there, but by the time I turned 29, I was like, like I was starting to need it more and having to turn the level up. So around 20 and 29, I didn't go out often because I was worried. The tank only lasts so long. So when you're out, you have to calculate, okay, am I going to use this whole tank? Is this tank going to take 2 hours of my day and I have to get home? So I didn't like leaving too often because I was worried, is my tank going to run out and I'm going to be screwed with no oxygen and not being able to breathe that well, right?
Like that's
So that was scary thought. So a lot of my friends, you know, I would have get-togethers on my house all the time. And my friends were really good. Like, they never really brought it up or asked too many questions because when you're on oxygen, you don't want to talk about it.
They probably didn't also want to. They probably
didn't want to bring the mood down,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. They're probably like, if you're ready, then you
Yeah.
can tell us, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. We are at a turning point in CF, and we are absolutely certain that one day the daily burden of cystic fibrosis will be a thing of the past. Your donation today will help to make one day, right now. Please support Cystic Fibrosis Canada and visit www.give.cysticfibrosis.ca.
So, like, the whole time I was just hoping, you know, I hope using this oxygen here and there and, you know, staying home, taking care of myself, that it's going to heal on its own. But it never healed. And then it was December 14th, 2017. I was going about my normal day. Like I said, you know, bye, I love you to my husband. He went to work. I was home with my dog. One of my best friends was going to come over. So I was, you know, cleaning up my place. I had a shower. And, you know, I'm all excited for her to come over. And then all of a sudden, it hit like that, like a snap like that.
I just got goosebumps. I don't know
Right?
what happened.
I couldn't breathe at all. At all.
No, not even a little bit.
And like that day and that week, I was getting really bad headaches, so severe that I called the doctor and they're like, oh, we should book you for an MRI. But they had no openings for an MRI until a year later. And I said, oh, okay.
My
a
Lord.
year later, like that's no use to me. So later that week, I had a severe headache, and then all of a sudden I couldn't breathe at all. So that's what
At all.
Like
you could pass out at any given moment.
Yeah. So the oxygen went up to level 15 was the highest.
Yes.
So I went from being on 1.5 oxygen to that day having to crank it all the way to 15.
And that will run
out. And
out.
I still couldn't breathe. On 15.
So what did you do?
So you think the first thing to do would be anyone, if this happens to you, call 911.
Yes, you would think.
You
Yeah,
would think.
yeah.
But for me, I called, you know, my husband at work and my parents because I'm like, I don't want to do this alone, calling 911. Corey was still at work, so he was talking to my mom because I couldn't really talk on the phone or anything. But I did tell my dog, like, I promise you I'll be home. So I promised Chase that I would be back, my dog. And my dad took him, and then me and my mom went.
And Chelsey, you're here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You didn't break that promise.
Nope. Yeah, so I got taken in the ambulance.
I wish I had my Kleenex here.
I know, Abby, come on.
I know, I'm not ready for this.
sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, so
Take your
the
time.
ambulance came. My mom came with me until Corey was able to meet us they took me to St. Joe's first. And when I got to St. Joe's, they were like, oh my God, this girl has severe CO2 poisoning. Because I was on the oxygen, and I guess my lungs weren't really working anymore, they weren't releasing that carbon
CO2,
dioxide, right? So that explains the severe headache and all of a sudden, like, not being able to breathe at all, and kind of like, I felt like I blacked out. Because I don't remember going in the ambulance, but apparently they had me on a stretcher going in, but I blacked out at that point. So yeah, St. Joe said, like, we can't help her because we don't have the tools and the equipment here. That there's been a young girl brought in with CO2 poisoning higher than they've ever heard of. Like, that's how high it was. They're like, she's lucky she came in when she did because...
But meanwhile, you weren't on a lot of oxygen being at home.
No.
Or was it just because your lungs wasn't able to do that
my lungs
exchange?
weren't able to do that exchange. They got so damaged that they weren't doing anything.
And then it just hit you.
Yeah, so it hit me like right away like that. So St. Joe's, they're like, we're going to have to transport her to Toronto. She's a cystic fibrosis patient. This is a high-risk patient, and we don't have the tools and the equipment to help her. So we need to transport her immediately to Toronto General Hospital. So once I got there, they placed me on a ventilator and the ECMO machine. So because I had the severe CO2 poisoning, my blood was like poisoned. So they had to do the ECMO machine where they connect it to your neck. And it filters out your blood.
Right.
And puts it back into your body all clean without the heavy CO2. So I was on that in a ventilator. So I was basically in a coma. So I don't remember much of that because they had me heavily medicated, like on...
Oh, yeah, like sedated. And
fentanyl and propanol. I was on all that. And I guess when I'm in that kind of coma, once I was on the ECMO for about 2 weeks, then they did say, like, do you want to be on the lung transplant list? Which I did go and assess on an assessment in Toronto for the lung transplant, because in order to get a lung transplant, you have to go through all this testing. They have to make sure all your other organs are working good. Your healthy weight. You don't smoke. They don't want you to smoke or drink. And you have to have like all your updated shots and everything. So thank God I did go for that assessment a few months prior. And I did the assessment just to like have my name in the system for just in case.
That is so good that you did that. Yeah.
Even though it was something I never wanted to have to do. But I'm like,
At the back of your head.
At the back of my head, I'm like,
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt to do it. Let's just do it. So just in case.
Yeah.
So because I was in the system, and once I got to Toronto General, they said, do you want to go on the list? And I said, sure, yeah. Apparently I said yes, I don't remember. But I'm glad I communicated yes. Because I really didn't let my parents and Corey know my wishes. But, they knew that I wanted to do anything to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They would say the same thing.
Yeah, they knew that was me. Like, I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
So they put me on the list, and within 3 weeks of being on the ventilator and ECMO, the lungs came.
Okay.
Which, like, that's lucky. Because some people wait years for lungs.
To work again.
Yes. And because of the shape I was in, I did not have that time to wait. Because you can only be on a ventilator and ECMO for so long.
Right.
Right? And even 3 weeks was long.
That's amazing.
Right? So I got the lungs.
Double
lung transplant.
And was it just like a news where like the doctors just came in one day and they said,
so
Chelsey, we have good news for you? Like, how did that
They told me,
about?
but I was like blackout.
Oh, you're still
I'm
obviously
still in and out of this coma.
Yeah.
So they told my family. They got the call like early morning on January 5th, 2018. They got the call. It was about 10 hours per lung to go the whole surgery.
10 hours. Wow.
So it was a long time.
Yeah.
Of them waiting, right?
But I think Toronto, were you UHN?
Yes,
Or was
I was at
I think
UHM.
they're the best.
Yeah, they're fourth
They're
best.
up there.
They're fourth best in the entire world. So like,
Wow.
I'm very lucky to live so
Yeah.
close to Toronto,
Yeah.
and like the team there was like amazing. My surgeon,
Yeah.
Dr. Young.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out
Dr.
Dr.
Young.
Young. Thank you for saving my life. Yeah, so the team was amazing. But like, once I woke up after the transplant, I had no idea I had a transplant.
What do you mean?
I didn't know because in a coma, I was like,
Oh, I see.
I was like, where am I?
You didn't know it was happening.
I didn't know
Yeah.
what was happening. So they said, you had a lung transplant. You're in the ICU still because the recovery was rough. Because I was in a coma for 3 weeks on the ECMO and the ventilator.
I was gonna ask.
You lose all your body
Mass.
muscles in your whole body.
That's like almost a full month of.
Yeah, so
Okay.
when you're bedridden and you're attached to all these
Oh yeah,
machines,
you
can't
lose your tone, everything.
You can't I
Yeah.
couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't eat. So
Wow.
once I got the lungs, I was still on a ventilator because I lost even my muscles around my lungs. So I even had to teach myself how to breathe again. They made me do these breathing exercises when I was on the ventilator with the new lungs. I had a physio girl come every day because I couldn't even, lift my head. I couldn't even lift my head.
I remember
couldn't
the
move
story.
my legs. I couldn't even lift my arms. I couldn't write. And I couldn't talk. So imagine how frustrating it is to communicate while you're in the ICU how you're feeling.
That is frustrating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I had my mom and husband there every day, and they would take turns spending the night because I guess they could read my lips the best. So, if I needed something, I'm glad that they were there. And then, another thing. So,
Uh-oh.
times did not get better after the transplant.
It didn't get better?
No. So, because of my surgery and how bad I went into the lung transplant, I guess they had my kidneys clamped for so long during surgery, and I had bleeding issues. So I was in and out the OR, opened up 5 times after the lung transplant.
Wow.
On the last time, I was told, I don't remember this because I was, heavily medicated. They had to leave my chest open for 5 days just to because of the bleeding. I was having bleeding issues. So then once that was resolved, then I had to go on dialysis for 6 months.
Because the kidney now got
Because
affected?
the kidneys, they took a hit from all the surgeries, from all the bleeding issues, and all the, heavy pain medications I was on. As well as now I'm on anti-rejection medications, which they take a hit to the kidneys. So I was on the dialysis for 6 months, and they were telling me then that, you're going to need a kidney transplant now. And I was like, are you for real? You can't make this stuff up.
Oh.
I was like, you know what? I don't know how much more I can take.
If you just had a major. Yeah.
And, going in, I was about just under 100 pounds. But after this transplant and being on dialysis, I was down to 60 pounds. Wow. Yeah. So I was
Oh my
skin and
God.
bones. So, when they said you might need a kidney transplant, I was like, oh man, I don't think my tiny body, I can take anymore, right? And, they would always say, don't ever say can't. Because they said everything you've been through already is a miracle. And then, I just need that reminder, oh yeah, I'm Chelsey. I'm going to show you, girl, right?
But also part of you as human, you're probably
Yeah,
how much more
can
I
one person take?
You're being logical at this point. But it's a good reminder.
But, I had the reminder, they would say, don't ever say can't, Chelsey, because you can.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Yeah, they're right. And if I keep thinking negatively about this, then it is going to make me deteriorate more.
So you have to change your mindset.
I had to change my mindset.
Yeah.
So, and I have my family, we have a big family. So, they were coming in every day to see me, and that helped, keep my spirits up and keep me motivated. This is what I'm fighting for me, but my family too.
Of course.
And my husband and everyone, right? So, and what do you know? After 6 months on dialysis, I said, I'll show you. And I got off dialysis. I had the doctors and nurses crying because they were like, what? They said, this is a freaking miracle. They're like, she's a walking miracle. I don't know how she does it.
Like, you didn't have to go through the transplant?
They said her kidneys are working. They are working. So I got off dialysis. That was the best day.
Oh,
And
wow.
I you know, they weren't expecting me to walk as quick as I did. So I got my body strength back. The muscles in my lungs came back. They thought I was going to have to go to speech therapy because once you get the trach removed, it can damage some of your vocal cords and your trach.
So your swallowing is going to be...
Yeah, so I had to learn to eat again. So I had to learn how to swallow food. I didn't get to eat food for 8 months. So I told my husband, I said, when I pass the swallow test and they're allowed, I'm allowed food, I said, get me Hutch's French fries, okay? Because I wanted Hutch's French fries.
Oh my God, I can only imagine.
And chicken fingers.
And
I'm a chicken tendies girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
of course
so
they got me
funny.
the biggest plate of fries and chicken fingers. So, but it was an adjustment to eat solid foods again, right? So, I couldn't eat too fast. I had to eat slow. And then when the vocal coach came in, she told me a few phrases to say, and she was like, what?
Like you were fine?
I was completely fine. So then
Wow.
when friends and family came to see me in the hospital, they didn't know I could talk yet.
So you didn't tell
So
them?
it was like 8 months. They never heard me speak a word
Yeah.
for 8 months. I couldn't say anything.
Uh-huh.
So they came in and I started talking. They started crying.
Oh, of course.
Right? But happy tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Chelsey. So now you've done your transplant. Yeah. What stage are you in now with your recovery? So you still have your meds and all that?
Yeah,
Stuff
so
there, yeah.
having a double lung transplant, any transplant, you have to be on anti-rejection meds for life. In the beginning, they're really high doses, so it's like a huge amount of pills that you have to take morning and night with vitamins in between. So that was rough for me in the beginning because I was only used to taking, one pill. Having cystic fibrosis, I just took one pill a month.
But now
with
you
vitamins.
probably have yeah.
But, in the beginning of the transplant, I had to take a whole lot of pills.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm a professional pill taker.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Tell me about it.
I can take 5 or 6 or 7 in one shot now. I taught myself, so it's easier to just down them all instead of one at a time.
Why am I so far away from you?
Yeah.
So wait, like this full thing and then you
Yeah,
just... Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did it in front of Dan once. I took like 7 pills. He's like, what the? Because Dan can't even take one pill. He can't even take a vitamin.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah.
you became a professional.
Yeah, it took a while. But,
Yeah.
so in the beginning after the transplant, so I was in the hospital for a whole year, recovering, getting my kidney function back, getting off the ventilator. Because I was so malnourished, being so
Malnourished,
being so, I wasn't able to eat and being like 60 pounds, your body can't heal properly. So with my trach, when they took that out, there was a hole here in my neck, which wouldn't heal. So they actually, Dr. Young, he was so nice and he knew, he's like, I know you're a young girl. And he said, I'm going to do this for you. So he took me in for surgery to close it.
Okay.
So it's completely closed and
I didn't even realize.
You can't even tell it's there. So it healed really well.
It looks like just like a line, like a part of your neckline.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
What a good doctor.
I know, very good. So he knew that I would be self-conscious about it, and I didn't want to go around with a teeny little hole or indent. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, he said, you've been through enough, right? So he said, let me take you in, let's get you healed. Because once this is closed, then you could start eating more properly and get back to your normal life.
Get your nutrition, yeah.
So as soon as that hole got closed, then I was able to, get back to a healthy weight. But also being on the anti-rejection meds, like I was on such high doses of those plus steroids, it makes you swell up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for
So you probably gain your weight because...
I gained my weight plus some.
Yeah.
So the first 2 years after transplant, when I finally got to go home, but thankfully it was during COVID, so I didn't have to see anyone because you don't feel comfortable in your skin because, being on those meds and all that water weight, those steroids at
It's
you.
not you.
It's not
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and you feel sore. It hurts your joints. Like you're
Yeah.
just not yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they said, don't worry. Like everything's going okay. Your lungs are looking good. No signs of rejection. All your blood work looks good. But they said, in year 3, we're going to tweak down some of your meds, and slowly as the years go on, the doses will be lower and lower.
Wait, what year are you in now?
So I'm in year 6 now.
Oh
so
my God, Chelsey!
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That flew.
It did fly by.
So they said you'll eventually have less and less.
So less and less of a dose. So
Okay.
now I'm at year 6. My prednisone's down a lot, and then I'm on anti-rejection meds. Prograf is really low. So as soon as 2 years ago, they lowered the dose, and 40 pounds just shut off. And it was all water weight
Yeah.
because it was just from the
Yeah.
medication.
Yeah.
And then now, like this year and last year and the year before, I'm like, I feel back to myself again. I feel back to myself, but I can breathe 10 times
Yeah.
better.
You look like the
Right?
Chelsea that I
Yeah.
remember when I first came into your family's
Yes,
life.
yeah.
This was 2015.
15, I think. Yeah, 2015.
Yeah. So yeah, big difference now.
Big difference, yeah.
So let's talk about trifecta.
Oh, yeah, so
So this is something you don't have to take this medication.
I don't have to take because I had a double lung transplant, but because, I still have CF, I don't have it in my lungs and I don't have it in my other organs, but I still have it in my sinuses. So certain things can trigger it. If I get a cold, certain allergies, and if I get that, then I get, a sinus infection. So that's something I still have to watch for. But I'm still like a huge advocate for cystic fibrosis. After my transplant, I felt it was necessary to be more open and share my story because I never shared it. I kept it to myself. But I think it's more powerful when I share my story because I know there's other people going through what I went through, or
yeah.
people now having children and they have CF. There is hope and there is advance in medicine. And, it's important to take care of yourself, do your treatments, do what you're supposed to do. But, when was it? Over COVID 2020, there's this new drug called Trikafta. So that helps some CF genes, not all of them, because there's over 2,000 CF genes. So Trikafta helps most of them, though. So what it does is it helps prevent further chest infections, further scarring on the lungs, and things like that. So many people are benefiting from it. There was a few people on the transplant list, and then they started Trikafta, and they're off.
And did this enter Canada not too long ago?
Yeah, so it entered Canada just after COVID. I think it was 2021.
There's a petition or something.
Yeah, so there was a petition, and all my friends and family signed it. Every year we do the CF Walk, which money donated to Cystic Fibrosis Foundation Canada.
And we'll put the links down below you too. Yeah.
Goes to the CF Foundation, which contributes to research, medication, studies, which benefits the lives of people with cystic fibrosis. So definitely, if you want to check out the CF Walk, it's at Bayfront on Sunday, May 26th. And then we'll also link the page where you can donate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't be snowing.
Yeah, there better not be snow in May.
You just never know.
Yeah.
So your journey is just amazing. It certainly is a miracle. And I'm so happy that you're here, Chelsey.
Yeah.
How has this changed you and your perspective in life?
Well, I think having CF, being diagnosed at 4, it changed my perspective then. I think I had a one-up on perspective of life, than other people that I grew up with.
Because it was something that you had to.
Yeah, I had.
Yeah.
And I knew at a young age how precious life was, and that tomorrow isn't promised, and that you have to live your life to the fullest, and don't care too much about what people think, because this is your life. Live your life to your true self and do what makes you happy, because that's always been my motto. And then after transplant, it's still my motto, but I thought, maybe I should be more open to telling my story and get people to know everything about me.
And be that voice.
And, be that voice, follow your dreams, go after what makes you happy. Don't let anyone tell you you can't, because you can. If I can do it, you can do it too.